Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. The Ohio State Buckeyes, Ryan Day and Brian Hartline, continue to dominate the recruiting trail, especially at the wide receiver position, landing another top 100 prospect in Jeremiah McClellan from St. Louis, Missouri. We're going to dive into the film of Jeremiah McClellan, but I'll say this to start. This does seem like a right up Brian Hartline's alley in terms of what he looks for in wide receivers. You take a look at some of the wide receivers that they've produced, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, those guys coming, Jackson Smith-Njigba kind of falls under this category as well. Smooth movers, guys who understand the position, run really good routes, get in and out of their breaks. That's kind of what has set Ohio State wide receivers apart. Yes, they're freak athletes as well, but most importantly, and why they're going in the first round is really polished wide receivers who can move smoothly on the football field. Jeremiah McClellan certainly has that in his game. Now, before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. The support from you guys on the recruiting trail truly means a lot. If many of you guys know, I'm a massive recruiting nerd. Love kind of breaking down these prospects who are going to be playing college football. So appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. And if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. For Ohio State fans, we have a deep dive into this Ohio State defense coming out later tonight. So would be interested to hear your thoughts on that as well. But let's get into Jeremiah McClellan. And he just joins an absolutely loaded pass catcher group headlined by Jeremiah Smith, Mylan Graham, two five-star wide receivers. And the craziest part is in the 2023 class, and you see teams really struggle to recruit position groups back-to-back years at a high level. That is not a problem that the Ohio State Buckeyes have in terms of recruiting wide receivers, right? Carnell Tate, Noah Rogers, Brandon Innes, all top wide receivers in the 2023 class already enrolled. And now you have another staple of wide receivers coming in this 2024 class. Want to dive into Jeremiah McClellan. And again, smooth mover is probably the thing I'd say the most, but he's a very physical, big body wide receiver, right? 6 foot, almost 200 pounds, runs an 11.2 700 meters. So I'm not trying to undersell his long speed, which he certainly has. But what I think kind of jumps off the film, and I think you guys will agree, is, excuse me, just how smooth, like gets in and out real quick, tracks the football down the field, comes back for it. And then after the catch, like very physical, hard to bring down. And I say smooth mover, and I don't mean to take away like the other attributes that Jeremiah McClellan brings, right? Really, really good after the catch. Does have the long speed. Like, don't sell him short. An 11.2 700 meter dash time is pretty quality. It's pretty quality speed. But again, what I think he kind of thrives in, and again, physicality. Like really, cornerbacks really struggle to deal with this frame. And you're going to see some cornerbacks try to jam him at the line of scrimmage. His ability to separate, beat jams, separate down the field, and go and track the football. That's kind of what I love most about him. Again, after the catch, he really does thrive in that situation. And I think my favorite part of his all-around game is that he's an all-around guy, right? Runs really good routes. He's physical at the catch point, and he's good after the catch. Those are kind of the boxes that you want to check in wide receivers. And Jeremiah McClellan certainly checks those kind of boxes. And again, really smooth, makes people miss in space, understands angles, and you see that physicality, the stiff arm, plays a little outside linebacker as well. And you certainly see that in his frame and how physical he is when he plays. I want to get to the rep where he's just blocking, which you see the linebacker in him working the seam here. Really good adjustment there, body control, makes the play. And then this is the linebacker in him, right? Going, let's get a little run blocking. Let's have a little dog in you. And Ohio State, I mean, as talented as these wide receivers are, like they're asked to block. And Jeremiah McClellan is one of those guys that you're not going to have a question about his ability to block. Really, really good get for Ohio State and Brian Hartline, who I feel is just like, you take a look at this 2024 class, I feel like Brian Hartline is just at a buffet in wide receivers. It's like he kind of gets what he wants. Like with the guys he wants to turn the heat up on, Jeremiah Smith, Mylan Graham, a guy like Jeremiah McClellan, like he gets those guys. And so the wide receiver, the pass catcher room, really looking nice. And you look at this class, 21 commitments, and you got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in the top 50 nationally, and at really important positions, right? Justin Scott, a dominant defensive lineman, 2 really, really good wide receivers, combined with Aaron Noland, who I know as a Michigan fan, I shouldn't be so high on Aaron Noland, but I'll tell you right now, Aaron Noland, I think, is one of my favorite quarterbacks in this class. He checks every single box. Arm talent's there, frames there, athleticism's there. This is going to be a really dangerous Ohio State class. And what I'd even talk more about is not only is it kind of building out that depth, but your average recruit ranking. I know you're trailing the Georgia Bulldogs in the rankings in terms of 1-2, But you look at the average commit in Ohio State's class at 93.54. They are grabbing really quality guys. And you're not seeing Ohio State just go out and get a bunch of players. Like, they're being really calculated, really targeting their top guys on their board. And they're doing a phenomenal job doing it, right? 4 5 stars, 13 4 stars, only 2 3 stars. And again, it's not a knock on the 3 stars. It's just Ohio State really cleaning it up in terms of their top guys on their board. Now, for Ohio State fans, I think the last question mark is you have the Armstrong brothers committed on the offensive line. You have Ian Moore, who's the top interior offensive lineman. Can you land that crown jewel 5-star offensive tackle in a class that there's not many great offensive tackles? We've talked Gerby Lambert. He sounds like he's trending to Notre Dame. That being said, I think Ohio State is quietly in on a couple of guys that I want to talk about. And the first one being 5-star offensive tackle, the number 1 offensive tackle in this class, Brandon Baker from Mater Dei, right? It sounds like you're going up against Oregon on the West Coast. He's going to take an official to Nebraska. I still think Ohio State is really going to turn the heat up on Brandon Baker, because you look at the class on the offensive side of the ball in terms of the skill position, quarterback, wide receiver, running back, a bunch of check marks. On the defensive side of the ball, I mean, you have a guy like Justin Scott. You really like what you have on the defense as well. I think the one thing you probably want for Ohio State in a position that you missed out on the last couple of years is probably that premier offensive tackle. Brandon Baker, I think, could be that guy. And the next guy I want to just mention before we close out, Jordan Seaton, who's been really quiet, didn't take any official visits in the summer. He's going to take an official visit to Ohio State this fall. Another guy that listed as an interior offensive line, according to 24/7 Sports, from what I've heard, completely has changed his body. He has the frame at 6'5". I think he could be an elite offensive tackle as well. The 24/7 Sports composite has him as the number 1 interior offensive lineman. Those are 2 guys that if I'm Ohio State, I would keep an eye on in the fall in terms of landing one of those guys. And you get a guy like Brandon Baker, Jordan Seaton, or maybe even a Gerby Lambert in the fold, you're looking at this Ohio State class. And I mean, it is truly something special. And Ohio State fans should be really fired up about the future. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys, checking us out. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Jeremiah McClellan committing to Ohio State. Appreciate y'all, and we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.